Seventh Inning Stretch, your go-to podcast for all things baseball. We're here to bring you the latest hits, inside scoop, and unforgettable moments from the Diamondbacks. So grab your peanuts and Cracker Jacks, settle into your favorite spot, and join us as we explore the highs, the lows, and all the excitement of baseball. This is the Seventh Inning Stretch, where the game's always in play.
And welcome to the Seventh Inning Stretch here on Variety Sports Network. I got a special guest here. A little bit different than my main guy, Josh Edwards, is on vacation, so I hope he's enjoying that out there. But I got my guy CP on tonight from New York Sports out there. You follow him on Twitter. You see him on my timeline all the time if you follow the show out here. He knows his baseball, and he can talk about it well. I look forward to your conversation tonight, sir. Not just on your Mets, but kind of maybe testing you in some other areas around the league. So I kind of look forward to those conversations as well. We did a show the other day. You had me on your show. I really appreciate that on Tuesday. So we get to do it again here on Thursday, my friend, 2 times in 1 week. Very cool. Thanks for taking the time to do it.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely appreciate you coming on the post game. Obviously, your A's and my Mets were had a long fought battle of a series that ended up in your favor, more or less here. So no, it's great. It's a great time. I can't wait to talk Mets baseball. Can't wait to talk baseball in general. It's been too long since I've been on your platform. So let's have a great show, man. Let's have a great show.
Now, just so you can get your stuff out too real quick here, you also do some Knicks stuff as well. You know, I'm a basketball guy out here. I've got the Warriors stuff behind me as well. I feel like you've been doing it for 4 years now. Is it longer than that now? You've been messing around with this
thing? It's even less than that. I started this podcast and this channel back in April of 2023. So just about a year and a half. Yep.
And how many subscribers do you have now?
Last time I checked, it was around 875, give or take.
Killing it. So be sure to give this guy, let's get him to 900. He's taking the time to join us tonight here. We're going to talk a little baseball here. So let's get into it. 7th inning stretch. Here we go. Before we get into your Mets, I feel like the Mets are going to come up in all these conversations we have early. So we'll touch on them as we're kind of going through this conversation. I want to start with the NL MVP watch. I did AL last week. It was kind of interesting with Judge, Witt, all that. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on, obviously Ohtani's the heavy favorite. We all know that, but I kind of want to have some fun with the conversation and kind of like, if anything, who's second in some way, if we're going to have that kind of debate. Right. But I feel like there's some world where maybe some of these guys could steal it if obviously he goes down with an injury or something like that. So I'm going to get some of the slides up on the stage here as we talk for a few minutes here with it. How about my top 7 I have for it right now, CP in the NL, is I got Ohtani 1, I got Marte 2, and then I got your guy Lindor 3 right now. I got De La Cruz 4, followed by Ozuna 5. And then I got Schwarber actually ahead of Harper at 6, and I got Harper at 7. That one could go a lot of different directions if we want to kind of go fight all the way back to those. But what do you kind of make of that on the initial list there? I got your guy in New York here 3. Probably get a little heat for that. What do you kind of make of that? I mean, obviously the last kind of week has kind of affected a little bit of it, but what do you kind of make of that initial NL MVP thing there?
Yeah, this is something that I've thought about for a little bit now. And I watch what's going around, around the league, and I try to make my best assumptions and put my bias aside. It's hard to do at times, but when I actually give you my objective NL MVP order, you might be shocked a little bit, right?
All right.
Because like I said, I put my team's bias aside, etc., all that good stuff. So obviously, like you said, Shohei Ohtani is going to come in number 1.
Yep.
Not to turn this into anything outside of baseball, but obviously moral dilemma with the whole Ozuna situation, but he's been performing lights out today.
I get you.
I think he has to be stats wise. I think Ozuna is my number 2 with the way that he's been carrying that offense. And given the situation that the Braves have been dealt this season. Mm-hmm. Now, listen, I understand everything else in between. I understand, sometimes with the MVP conversations, the Braves are not the most popular in that category as well. But this guy is performing lights out right now. I mean, he's batting around 300. This is an offense that has not had Michael Harris, Harris III in the lineup for quite some time. Same thing with Ozzy Albies. Obviously, Ronald Acuna situation as well. Like, this offense has been depleted, and I think Marcell Ozuna has stepped up to the task. 35 home runs, 90 RBIs. I mean, the OPS is north of 930 as well. This guy's performing lights out. I will say Marcell Ozuna, if anybody's going to give Shohei Ohtani a run for his money at the MVP spot, with the way the statistics are aligned right now and the situation that the Braves have kind of had to deal with, right, over this kind of skid in this season, it would be Ozuna probably at number 2 for me. Now, like I said, that's probably also kind of a far stretch because I do understand Ketel Marte right now is performing lights out as well. And that Diamondbacks team is as hot as can be. Now, I understand he's also been sidelined since August 12th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Or ankle. But when you take a look at the production of this guy in a Diamondbacks team that has been absolutely resurgent this season, this guy is also just knocking the cover off the baseball, a solid defender as well. 30 home runs from Ketel Marte. That stood out to me 100%.
Big time.
Like, when I think of Ketel Marte, I don't really think of him as a power guy, to be honest
No.
with you. So 30 home runs, the ball is jumping off of his bat, so I got to give him the number 3 spot. I think I will give the slight advantage to Elly De La Cruz over my guy, Francisco Lindor. If we had Doug on this podcast, I know he would be nodding his head up and down with him being a Reds fan. But I think
yes, he would.
Elly De La Cruz right now, the offensive metrics compared to Francisco Lindor, as good as Francisco Lindor has been, I think I got to give the objective edge to Elly De La Cruz, although Francisco Lindor obviously is the better defender by probably 2 or 3 miles over Elly De La Cruz. But when you look at stolen bases, 59, 21 home runs is right there on par for Lindor's 23. The OPS plus is although De La Cruz has a little bit of an edge, that's kind of even. But all things considered, I think Elly De La Cruz is having a phenomenal season. He comes in at number 4 for me, and obviously my guy Francisco Lindor has to be top 5. I'm going to give Francisco Lindor my number 5. And then outside of that, I know you went through 7. I think Bryce Harper would be close there at number 6.
What do you? That was a difficult, just like a weird. I kind of how you feel about Ozuna is kind of how I feel about Schwarber. He could steal it because I mean he gets crazy hot. Like let's just say he goes on a tear for the next 6 weeks, he could end up with 45 home runs. Like that's what he does. So that's kind of where I had him in this mix. And Harper's been weird lately. I want to go to for a little fun here, the Lindor Cruz kind of conversation. Like you have Lindor, who your Mets fans, as we talked about when I was on the show with you, they get frustrated with him a lot. I've always said he was a little bit underrated, obviously with the massive contract he got, but then he underperformed. But his stats were always there with Cleveland before. And then last year he kind of has a little bit bounce back second half. You guys move him to the 1 spot this year. His defense has to matter a little bit in this conversation. But even if you look at a guy like Lindor, he still ends up with 24 stolen bases. Like he's still getting those numbers. He's still getting pretty decent numbers as well. The one thing I was a little disappointed with him, and that's where I kind of agree with, I could move Lindor if I needed to, is like I wish his on-base percentage was a little bit higher. That would maybe give him a little boost in there. But I feel like it gets debatable there. But De La Cruz just having an all-time season. Do you think he ends up getting to 80? I think the Reds record, Doug says, is 81. Do you think he gets past 81 there?
I mean, honestly, I would not be shocked. This guy, every single time, I don't watch much Reds baseball. I got to be upfront honest about that. But every single time I see a highlight of this guy is stealing bases left and right. I mean, stealing home even, crying out loud. This guy's got electric speed. And this is a great conversation that you bring up, Darren. Like, what are the pros and cons when assessing Elly De La Cruz versus Francisco Lindor? Obviously, like I just said, the offensive numbers, right? All in all, probably favor Elly De La Cruz, but how much weight do you put in to the defensive metrics, right? You're talking about 11 errors on the season versus De La Cruz's 24 in comparisons. Like I said, Francisco Lindor's 11. Obviously, the fielding percentage as well sets them apart. So if we're talking about a marginal gap, and obviously this is granted depending on what happens for the next month and a half of baseball. If there is a marginal gap between those offensive numbers, right, Francisco Lindor is not going to go out there and steal you 50 bags. He's going to be a 30-30 type of player. That is probably his ceiling, right? He was 31 and 31 last season in terms of home runs and stolen bases, but he's not going to catch up to Elly De La Cruz, and he's not going to be that type of player. That's not what we're expecting out of him. But give us a 30-30 season. They're both hitting 263 right now. Obviously, Elly De La Cruz has about 40 points on Lindor in the OPS category, right? how much of a marginal difference are we talking about in the offensive category to sort of offset the large gap that is persistent between these two guys in the infield with their defense? That is something that I am kind of watching out for. But also, right, and obviously St. Louis Sports Network is saying it here as well, with the records of the two teams, et cetera. Like, you take a look at the New York Mets, right? We had this conversation on the post game, Darren. This is something that I'm always watching out for with teams, right? And this is why I had Marcell Ozuna as high as I did. I look at when things get tough for teams, who is the guy that they can rely on, and who's going to put this team and their team on his back. Lindor has done that over the past, I want to say, back to even when the second half started of this season. You talk about guys like Jeff McNeil and Jose Iglesias, who've been on par with him in the second half, but nobody else from this core. Brandon Nimmo dropped off a cliff. Pete Alonso hasn't been himself. JD Martinez also has been dropping off of a cliff. Not much help from Francisco Lindor in terms of carrying the New York Mets. So that's why he definitely belongs in this conversation. But like I said, if we're talking about the statistics of these individual players just as a total, like I said, I can't move that needle right now for Francisco Lindor, although it is closer than I think a lot of people would expect it to be.
It's going to be interesting because with the MVP too, right? Like you said, the record's going to matter a little bit here. So Ohtani's obviously the one. We know that, but like I'm kind of actually curious for this when you have blowouts and you have I'm sometimes curious who gets second. Like this year again with the NBA, I was curious where your boy Brunson was going to end up. I knew he wasn't winning it, but I wanted to kind of know where he was going to fall in that category, how people viewed him. So I kind of feel that same way because you have a lot of guys that are going to take the Marte Ozuna power kind of numbers. You're going to take Lindor, De La Cruz, unreal stolen base. Like if he gets to 81 stolen bases, I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps up to second place. And so it's just kind of a number you don't see very often. So I think that gives him a little advantage there too. So I don't know. Obviously, Ohtani's the best player in the league here. I feel like just for a second, we got to reflect on him. I mean, what a monster, man. This guy is every time he's up is like you either know he's going to hit a ball or he's going to hit the ball hard. Like nobody makes better contact at all times than this guy. You're probably on the same page as everybody else. He's the one-on-one, right?
Yeah. There's nobody taking this award away from Shohei Ohtani. I mean, there's just simply no way. Even in a star-studded Dodgers lineup, which, you know, with the record-wise, like everybody else below Shohei Ohtani, their teams are kind of right there in the NL wildcard race. Obviously, the Mets, Diamondbacks, and Braves more so than a guy like, you know, Ellie De La Cruz on the Reds. But all things considered, right, when you take a look at Shohei Ohtani, even with a star-studded Dodgers lineup, he still sticks out like a sore thumb in a great way, right? I mean, everything that you want in a ball player from the offensive perspective, he doesn't even need to be pitching. His offense alone, right, is putting him in this conversation, which is absolutely unique. And, you know, I'm surprised consistently, as consistent of a power hitter as he is. A lot of people in today's day and age, and the guy that you named as your seventh or I guess your sixth guy right before Bryce Harper was Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah.
Absolute monster of a power hitter, home run hitter through and through. But look at the average, right? Look at the average. And I know a lot of people don't like to put emphasis on average nowadays. And I get it because there's a lot of other important statistics to judge hitters based off of. But when you have a hitter in Shohei Ohtani, who's a perennial 40-plus home run guy every single season, and his average really isn't taking a dip in that category. He is a true gap-to-gap hitter. Right. And that is something that's so unique about this guy. It's very hard to strike him out. He has the utmost plate discipline. This guy, I know a lot of people talk about Aaron Judge, and I kind of missed the whole MVP discussion on the AL. And you guys had a great show surrounding that. And the conversation has always been Judge versus Ohtani, especially when Ohtani was in the American League. But bar none, there is not a hitter in this league quite to the effect of Mr. Shohei Ohtani. And I firmly believe that. I truly do.
If he's healthy almost every year, you're going to feel like he's going to be one or two in the MVP almost every year. Like he's just going to be there. And that's just the way, especially when he starts pitching again. Yeah. It's funny with some of these guys, like everybody else on this list, like I mentioned, they all have a flaw. Like they're all great players, right? Like Marte, you know, he's a solid hitter, but I'm concerned always with his health and like a lot of things that his flaw with it. He doesn't always hit for a high average. He is this year. He's been consistent always usually in his career, but he's had some downsides as well. Lindor, as you know, can struggle with on-base percentage, with average as well, and with the strikeouts. This guy leads the National League in strikeouts. So that's so a lot of these guys have. But then you look at Ohtani and you're like, there's not very many flaws there with this guy's game. So obviously 101. Harper, a lot of people had him on these lists that I was looking at getting ready for the show, like 2 or 3, and I was just like, what narrative is that? Like, I just was very disappointed to see some of that crap. So I don't like see it. Like, I'm like 3. Like, I'm not just gonna put it there because everybody like that's insane. Ozuna, as you go back to him to put a little bow on, as you have him number 2 there.
I do, yeah.
I mean, the Braves, they wouldn't be at this where we talked about. They've been kind of struggling. They got a little hot here versus the Giants, but yeah, Ozuna definitely deserves to be in the conversation. To be fair, like I said, that 2 for 5 is going to be interesting where it's voted on this year. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Darren, quite simple. If the Braves, like I said, right, all things aside, baseball talk strictly here. If the Braves did not have Marcell Ozuna and he wasn't doing the things that he was doing so far this season, the Braves would be in a world of hurt with all the injuries that they've sustained. A world of hurt. They'd be a completely different team, and we might even be talking about the Reds being lower in the standings than the Cincinnati, or the Braves being lower than the Cincinnati Reds in the standings. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, let's go off to that. That's a good segue there. Let's get to that before we get to your kind of fully dive into some of your Mets things here. Talked a little Lindor there with it. Let's get at the NL wild card standings here. We obviously have we have the D-backs, the Padres, and the Braves in it right now. Obviously, the Braves are falling quite a bit back of that 1 and 2 spot now, with Arizona and San Diego just really pouring it on right now, like just playing exceptional baseball. Again, the Diamondbacks doing exactly what they did last year, basically. And then you got the Braves there hanging on. And then you got the teams that are in it, right? You got your Mets there, just 2, everybody's kind of been a little hard on them, and they should be, but only 2 games out at the same time. Matt Elson is killing me. Yes, Susie out there, Bourbon and Baseball. Thanks for tuning in there. Yes, Matt Olson can be a slump. I told you, he always slumps, especially if he's sliders away to the guy, sliders away. So the Mets there, they get with it. The Giants, they don't look good against the Braves. What do you think, CP, this NL wild card hunt? Obviously, we got your Mets in it, but let's kind of also reflect on some of the other teams. How are you feeling about this race overall? Is it the Braves or nobody else? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, right now, obviously the St. Louis Cardinals, they've been kind of falling off a little bit in the last couple of games. They were looking really hot there, but every single time I look at these NL wildcard standings, aside from me trying to just forget about the missed opportunities that the Mets have let go through their fingertips, right, in trying to catch up to the Atlanta Braves for that 3rd spot and overtaking them concretely, I look at these top 2 teams, and I got to be honest with you. If I were to pick one team that scares me the most in this NL wildcard race, it would definitely be the Arizona Diamondbacks, bar none. I know the Padres have been playing great baseball. They just went on a stretch of like 4 games in a row where they completed 9th inning comebacks. Their bullpen, even though they got Tanner Scott, the deadline hasn't really looked like great, to be honest with you. I know they still have a lot of talent on that team, and I know they're right there with the Diamondbacks, but at this point, the Diamondbacks scare me the most. But the Braves also, with the Mets kind of chasing them, they get Michael Harris back. He hits a grand slam in his first at bat. I mean, it's shaping up to be, and I hate to compare this year because I really think that these 2 Mets teams are different from 2022 and 2024. We kind of talked about it. I think it's shaping up to be a little bit reminiscent. And this is very too early to say, but this is just my Mets fandom talking with inside of me right now and coming out a little bit at 10:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as the Mets fall to Oakland Athletics and lose the series. But it's kind of reminiscent of the 2022 season where the Braves and the Mets are right there for the thick of things. That was for the division. Now it's for the wild card. And you see the Braves have been struggling. The Mets had the opportunity to catch up and and capitalize on that, and they didn't. And that's just what it is. But right now, I want to say that the Giants scare me a little bit, but like every single team that I see under the Mets, I don't see them. I don't think they pose a threat. And I could be looking back at this stream a couple weeks from now, and kicking myself for saying this, but I really don't. I really think it's between these top 4 teams for the NL wildcard standings. And we kind of had this conversation on my stream a couple days ago, right there. And we're like, all right, the Giants and the Cardinals are playing pretty decent baseball. Obviously, the Braves went in there and kind of kicked the Giants' tails, but it's like on paper, right? The Mets hold the season, I guess, record or tiebreaker over the St. Louis Cardinals. The Giants, yes, the Giants always play the Mets tough, but it's like I don't think it's between anybody else for these top 3 seeds in the wild card, minus these top 4 teams. And right now, obviously, the Mets are looking up at the Braves, Padres, and Diamondbacks, which does not feel good to me.
Aaron here real quick in the comments, not happy with
I agree with that. Aaron. Great comment.
Watching Rocket in the mood there. You got the feels like the 05 Mets there with it. We got St. Louis Network tuned in here. Let's go Cardinals. Aaron again. Yes, Daz is related. Mike Cameron was in the stands there. He played for the Mets, right? Mike Cameron?
Yes, he did. Yeah, yes, he did.
So like these wild card stands, like you said, it's going to change here or there. But like for me, the Diamondbacks and Padres have been the most impressive in this, pulling away or feeling like they're pulling away. But that's the thing. There's still a lot of games left. Like one of these teams could always fall back at the same time. And the Braves have shown they can get really kind of iffy at times. I mean, I look at these teams and like the Reds to me are just not – they have maybe the best pitcher out of all these guys, though, with Hunter Greene outside of Chris Sale. You know, he's like right there. He's right there for the Cy Young Award. And then they have – so that he's kind of maybe has their biggest weapon. They're starting to hit a little bit better. The Mets, I still feel like you guys are the favorites there in that. I know the pitching does concern me, though. You brought up that with your team. Like, it does concern me a little bit for sure. But the Giants concern me even more. Obviously, being able to see them a little bit more out here in the Bay Area, like, they are the definition of 80 and 82. Like, they are the definition of that team. Like, that is what they're going to be. And I think most Giants fans would agree with me on that. So, like, Tyler Fitzgerald, who's been on absolute fire for them, like absolute fire, is not going to be able to do enough. Whenever I hear you guys talk on your Mets show, it reminds me so much of Bay Area talk I hear about the Giants. Like they're kind of similar issues. Like the hitting sucks. Like it's or you know, like you guys are like the hitting always seems to be a big issue with you guys with like quality at bats and stuff. So the Cubs though to me are dead. I don't see them making a little push at all. And the Cardinals, I feel like they had their chance. I don't know.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know. You agree? Like, I feel like I know they're only 4 out, but they had a big. I don't know. I feel like they had that week, and I don't know. I don't feel the same way now about them.
You know what, though? I will say with the Cardinals' acquisitions at the deadline, it does strike me a little bit more confident to kind of see them make a run past the Giants. It's only a half a game we're talking about here, but like the Cardinals at least made an effort at the deadline, in my opinion, whereas the Giants, like you said, right, they held on to Blake Snell. And they kind of had like a half-ass deadline. And a lot of people always talk about half-ass deadlines surrounding the New York Mets. But, you know, when you take a look at what they did in comparison to the Giants to try to improve their team, and you know, I could just be a homer speaking here, but like the acquisitions that we got, you know, I think they're going to help us in the long run. So that's why I don't view the Giants as a threat. But like I said, I think it's really going to be between these top 4 teams. But I agree. I think the Cardinals – I'm always iffy on the Cardinals, man. The Mets and the Cardinals have a long.
Yeah,
history.
There's a lot of love hate there with you guys. Is that like one of the top 5 teams you hate then out there as Mets fans, or is it number 1? Can't be number 1. Or the Braves got to be right 1.
No, okay. If I'm going top 5 most hated teams, I'm going Braves number 1. I'm going Phillies number 2. I don't really want to say the Yankees because they're kind of irrelevant, but I will say rounding out that top 3, I would say the Cardinals are kind of up there. Like
fair.
I replay 06 in my head, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like I hate to go back to it, but it's like, come on. Like that is a sour taste in my mouth, 100%. But no, as it relates to this conversation 2024, because we are here about 18 years later, if I do my math correctly. I got to let that go at some point, Darren.
I haven't let stuff go since 2000. All right, we're good. It happens. We're hardcore fans.
It's how sports fandom works. And yeah, like I said, the Cardinals probably I view maybe as the biggest threat to the New York Mets. Yeah.
That's funny because I randomly hate the Angels. I don't think anybody would hate the Angels, but like I've never liked the Angels. That's just because I'm always and so it's like a random team I hate. So
I'm curious as to why.
Oh, those early 2000 days where they would play against like Tim Salmon and like Darren Erstad and Troy Percival and I hated Francisco Rodriguez because he was such a pain in the ass to go against. And then he went to your Mets actually as the closer there. So like he was always a big pain. They just had like, and then they had Eckstein that was just kind of like a little chippy guy, and they had Adam Kennedy there. So just these really, and then I'd be like, how is Jared Washburn getting guys out? I'd be like, what is going on here? I'd just be frustrated by their team all the time. I had a lot of good players. Troy Gloss also was on those teams. So that team, and then just some of their decisions. And I have an uncle that's an Angels fan that really helps, and he has a big mouth too sometimes. So that, you know how that works too when you got to deal with that with family as well. So it's going to be a fun race. I mean, you're going to have it on your show all the way through there on CP on your show there, CP Network. You're going to have it the whole time. This is going to be your main talk. every show, you know, it's coming.
There will be a lot of rants. Today was a rant from what we saw with this Mets team, this freaking Mets team, and what they did today against your A's. There's going to be a lot of rants.
How disappointed are you like in that today? Like I was able to watch on my break a little bit there for a little bit your guys' show. Try to chime in a little bit. Some of the chat was funny. Even I was like, oh, they responded, so I liked it there with it. I kind of want to get a little Mets, the state of the Mets, a little bit here as we kind of transition from wild card to MVP to strictly your Mets here for a second. We're talked on a little bit, so I'm going to try to go on some different points than we talked about Tuesday as well. I hate the Giants the same way. I don't like the Giants either. It's definitely top 3 on my list as well. Might be number 1. I had a sick history of not liking them, so we'll do that too. Rants were great today. Yes, they were. You got your guy Pure turned it in tonight. Appreciate that, my friend, as well. Let's get into that. Your Mets. So you obviously get off to a pathetic start, right? You were like looked upon as one of the most disappointing teams to even start the year, right? You guys were like, nothing's going to talk about. Where's this season go? And then you get incredibly hot in June and July. You start playing well, maybe not incredibly hot in July, but still play solid baseball the same way. And you kind of feels like teared off a little bit here as you kind of entered the middle of August, the dog days here a little bit. But since the second half, you guys have been pretty good. Here's some of the numbers on the line. You sit, like we said, 62 and 59, still 3 games over 500 there. Been good since June. You guys are a power hitting team, as we've talked about in the past. Like, where do you feel like you guys are at this point? Like, I don't know. Like, I guess I could put it to you, like, what has you most excited about this team? I know there's some negative things, but like, come on, like, you're still right there in it. There's got to be some positive with this team here.
I mean, the positive is that when the Mets lineup is firing on all cylinders, this is a top 5 offense in the league. I mean, let's be honest here. They've posted top 5, maybe even borderline top 7 numbers across the board. The problem is the consistency, and that's what I always boil it down to with the New York Mets, right?
Yeah.
It seems like 2 or 3 guys are carrying this team at one time. They go cold, and then maybe 1 or 2 guys carry them for the next couple weeks. And that's the frustrating thing about it. And we always boil it down to this core. So you're right, 100%. The New York Mets are top 3 in home runs in the league, right? They're top 5 in a lot of other categories, on base percentage, OPS. I mean, probably right before this cold streak that they kind of hit before the last 13 games. But the consistency factor is a problem. Now, if you ask anybody, and I've been talking Mets baseball this whole entire season, I've been talking Mets baseball last season too, and last season was the debacle. I'm a lot more confident in this offense than the starting rotation. So my thing is that if the Mets are going to actually make a serious run at this NL wild card, the rotation is going to do what they do. You just saw what Jose Quintana did today. Unacceptable after getting a 5-0 lead. This offense was great, though. But the thing is, we haven't seen this offense, right? The offense that we saw today and yesterday putting up 9 runs, we haven't seen that consistently over the last, 3 weeks now, ever since the second half started. So 100% agree with Bourbon and Baseball here. This team goes as the Mets go. It just has a lot of fans frustrated because Lindor's been great. He's been holding his end of the bargain. And he's had, like I said in our stream, right, that we did the postgame a couple days ago, Darren, he's had a lot of unfair criticism. But where's Brandon Nimmo? He carried this team at one point this season, but he's fallen off a cliff. Where's Pete Alonso in his contract year? He's not performing up to expectation. So what has me excited is the ceiling of this team is being a nightmare matchup for any opposing pitcher. That's the ceiling of this team. And that's what I look forward to day in and day out until they go out there and provide me consistent bad at-bats and terrible at-bats. But that's the ceiling of this team. I love this offense on paper. And this is where I will say the 2024 New York Mets are light years ahead of the 2022 New York Mets. Even though I hate to compare the two rosters, this lineup is bar none better than a Mark Hanna lineup, an Eduardo Escobar lineup, Tomas Nido, James McCann lineup, Daniel Vogelback in 2022. It's light years ahead.
Yeah.
But where we run into issues is the consistency and also the starting pitching. And we don't have any star-studded names in this rotation. We're relying on bounce-back years from Sean Manaea and Luis Severino. David Peterson, of all people, has been our best pitcher, right? Ever since he's come off the IL. So we're holding it together with the rotation, and credit to them, they've been holding it down given what this rotation is on paper. But the most exciting factor to me, especially during that hot streak that we saw them come back into this NL wildcard race after being 11 games down, 11 games under 500, I should say, is the offense. And if this is going to continue to be an exciting team down the stretch, the offense has to be a lot better than they have been the last 3 weeks.
It feels like that Senga injury, that was the killer. It just feels like if I was like a fan of the team, like, I don't know, I'm guessing this is how you felt, like, oh, we're so pumped, he's pitching well, and just a total gut punch. Like, I don't know, I feel like that's where maybe that fan base lost a little, even more faith a little. Is that still, you feel like that's true?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. This rotation, like I said, started this year off with terrible news in Kodai Senga. Obviously, probably wasn't going to get him back, or weren't going to get him back until the second half, or maybe we were hoping for early June, late June, but he kind of got pushed back there and they didn't want to rush him. And then he had a fantastic start against the Atlanta Braves his first time out. And then he pulls, I think it was a calf strain, right? Is what he went down with. And those are always tricky. And it's like deflating. Because, at that point, you're already at a point where you have to sort of assess the rotation and what you have versus what you will need. And I'm sure David Stearns, as he was preparing for the deadline and everything, he was like, listen, I hate this narrative too. This is the most tiring narrative amongst this Mets team, this organization, is like, we're getting XYZ back. That's almost like adding somebody at the deadline, quote unquote. I hate that. Like, you can never count on that, because the situation that Kodai Senga had is something that you're going to run into often. And we had Jacob deGrom, right? One of the best pitchers in our generation in franchise history. And he can never stay healthy. And we were like, oh, well, it's like getting deGrom back is like getting an arm at the deadline. No, it's not. Yeah. No, it's not. That's so fair. I think that, right, we got Paul Blackburn, decent pickup, starting pitcher 4, I think, right? You know him all too well. He's not going to wow you. And I
He's
think
not saving your season.
Yeah.
He's not saving your season.
No, not at all. And we were really missing a second pitcher at the deadline. So, like I said, what we got is what we got right now. This roster is going to be it the whole way through. We'll see what the September call-ups are when the roster expands from 26 to 28. But 100%, Darren, I agree with you. That Kodai Senga injury at the beginning of the season kind of deflated us. And especially when he came back and had a stellar start against the Atlanta Braves his first time out, that deflated us even more. Now,
it's definitely what you guys needed. You guys needed that little boost there. You needed the little momentum, a little pick me up there with it, especially coming off that good streak there. Oh, now we get Senga back, like, kind of keeps it rolling a little bit. So it definitely, and like you said, your pitcher's not. It's just not like Severino. I feel like he's burnt out a little bit here along the way. He did pitch well for you guys in the first half as well. Aaron brought up the third baseman that's been playing well for you guys. As well. What's his name there? Your guy, the third baseman, killed us. So yep, he had a good. Yeah, he's been really good as well for you guys. So I don't know. Like, I feel like sometimes we're even harder on our own teams than we are like other teams, and we're not watching them every day. Like, you see like the day-to-day stuff. So it's interesting to get your perspective on some of that. And we talked a little bit about it last night. Like, so I don't want to necessarily go down that angle in terms of, like, I know Pete Alonso is going to be the big talk and all that going forward, but he is is it Ryan, right? The guy that you do the show with on your show there?
Rob.
Sorry, Rob. He made the point today when I was listening about Alonso and how a lot of it does fall on him, like you were kind of saying he feels. And like, as a guy who wants to get paid, that to me it does have to fall a little bit more on him than maybe a Lindor, where it's fair, but he's having an MVP season. He's going to be in the top 5. You can't be mad about that. So as we're talking through this, as you kind of lead me to next year a little bit, let's say you even make the playoffs, or even if you, win the World Series, whatever, we'll get there. But obviously the way you talk, there's holes in this team. And like the Soto fish is out there, all the angles that are coming, but where you want this team to like really buckle down and like, we need these areas. Like, is it just like, what has to happen for you?
So we were actually on the roundtable show right before I got on this podcast right here with you. And we were talking about, cause like a lot of people are focused on 2024 and a lot of people wanted David Stearns to sell out of the deadline to sort of make this team a perennial contender right this year.
Yeah.
And David Stearns obviously did not do that. If you look at his deadline moves, right? He got a couple bullpen arms. Like, I'm a fan of them. Brazaban, Maton, Stanek. We got Jesse Winker, who I think is serviceable. He's not a 3-4 hitter as we've been utilizing him this first couple of weeks as a Met, but like, he's a serviceable 6-7 hitter. He's hitting about 300 as a New York Met right now. But it ultimately boils down to David Stearns obviously taking over this organization as the president of baseball operations. I truly don't think with the baseball, I'd like to call him a baseball mastermind because I'm a big fan of what he did with the Milwaukee Brewers organization, obviously with less money to work with over there in Milwaukee as opposed to what he has right now, Steve Cohen and the New York Mets. But I really do think that this offseason is going to provide the New York Mets fans and this fan base, right, with fireworks. And a hesitancy to trade prospects, right? You talk about a quote unquote revamped farm system, right? And I don't think it's as revamped as people make it out to be. It's a great farm system, don't get me wrong, as in comparison to what it was, but it's not like a wow you type of farm system, especially from the positional prospects, right? As opposed to the pitchers. But we made a trade with the Astros for JV, Max Scherzer with the Texas Rangers, etc. The Marlins even taking David Robertson. We had a good haul in return last MLB deadline. But what I will say is that I don't believe that David Stearns is a believer in this core. And when I talk about the core, I'm talking about obviously Francisco Lindor.
Absolutely.
That's an anomaly. That's an anomaly because Francisco Lindor is going to be here to stay, and he's the one that's been performing. But I'm talking about a guy like, obviously, Brandon Nimmo. I love Brandon Nimmo. He's had his peaks and valleys. And it was surprising to me to hear you say from an outsider's perspective that Brandon Nimmo doesn't get more kind of like hate amongst his fan base. He's a tremendous ball player. And obviously he's got the contract. He got overpaid for what the market value was because at that time when he was still a center fielder, there was not many center fielders on the market, and the San Francisco Giants were preparing to offer him a bag until Steve Cohen stepped in. But also you're talking about Jeff McNeil. We're talking about a lot of these other guys like Francisco Alvarez, who's taken a step back this year. JD Martinez, who's obviously not part of this core, but was brought in here to be the supplemental piece. I don't think with what, especially the big fish, like you said, is Pete Alonso. I don't think Steve Cohen and David Stearns are confident in this core, quote unquote, to provide what the Mets need to be a perennial World Series contending team. So therefore, in this offseason, I think the sky's the limit. The checkbook, whether it's Soto, Santander, if Corbin Burns somehow reaches free agency, I really do think that they're going to open up the checkbook as opposed to all the one-year deals that we saw with David Stearns taking over this team in the 19th hour this past offseason, but also the trade value too. Building up this farm system wasn't just setting up the Mets to trade these guys at this deadline and rush it, for a team that you weren't confident in. But this offseason, when you can perhaps move a Jeff McNeil, when you can perhaps move a Starling Marte, who's entering, I believe, the final year of his contract, and you can pay off some of that salary and offload him to a different team and open up a roster spot, I think that there's a lot more wiggle room and a lot more time for David Stearns to be deliberate and deliver exactly what we need for this team. But I think it all boils down to your question of not entrusting Pete Alonso, who's been absolutely brutal, right, compared to the expectations that we had coming in for him, and also his clutch statistics overall. I don't think this organization believes in him to get the job done.
I think last offseason it kind of showed that a little bit. And like you said, they still have another qualifying offer on him for next year too. So we'll see what happens there with it too. The Nimmo factor for me is, like you said, it's a terrible contract. In my opinion, it's an awful contract that you gave him. I know you see him every day than I do, but he's still batting 226 this year. He's not like, I don't know, like you're not getting the bang for the buck. He doesn't seem like a game changer. He's probably, I know he's a solid player. He had the game-winning home run on Sunday Night Baseball, I know, this year. But, like, I don't know. Like, that's where I would say that's where he would frustrate me is, like, you're getting paid like you're a guy here, but you're not performing. And that's, I mean, I know he's third in your team in hits, and he does some good things. He's a good defender. I don't know. I think he deserves some blame too. He's your number 2 hitter. I think he should be better than that. So that's what I thought. Yeah. What thoughts on McNeil? You said you think he's gone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if the Mets get a team to bite, I think Jeff McNeil's out the door. I think that was a rush contract anyways, to be honest with you. I really never foresaw him being a part of this future. I know the batting title and all, et cetera, but if you look at least the sensible fans in this fan base, they understand that Jeff McNeil has already hit his peak, right? Today's MLB, with the way that Jeff McNeil's swinging the bat, which is absolutely right now, he's swinging the bat 9-day different than he was in the first half. He's turned into more of a gap-to-gap power as opposed to the slap hitter that he wants to be in first half. But I think even still, with a couple of years left on his contract, it's more or less a team-friendly contract, especially when you take into account that Steve Cohen is going to take some of that off to whoever kind of bites on him. But when you take a look at the crowded roster that we have, it doesn't matter what Jeff McNeil does in the second half, right? I think that anything that he does in the second half is a cherry on top because I think that truly the Mets will try to find a deal for Jeff McNeil this offseason. And whether that means Luis Angel Acuna is going to play, a lot of people like myself aren't sold on Luis Angel Acuna. Whether that means he's going to play or the Mets are going to try to go out there and find another second baseman, or if they actually truly believe in Ronnie Mauricio to have a comeback and they have Ronnie Mauricio playing second base, depending on what happens with Pete Alonso, right? Because he can play second or third. And then a lot of people are talking about with Mark Vientos' resurgence, you move Mark Vientos over to first base and Pete Alonso plays or Pete Alonso walks. There's a lot, like I said, this is a whole merry-go-round in the infield. Depending on Pete Alonso, he's the start of this chain and what's going to happen. But bar none, to answer your question on McNeil, if the Mets can find any way to offload at least a portion of his salary over the next 2 years, like I said, I think it was a rushed contract extension. I think they will take it to make room for another roster spot.
It's interesting too with you guys, like like your owner, you get that owner, he comes in and spends the big bucks, right? So like immediately your fan base probably changes a little bit with all that stuff, and the expectations kind of weirdly change with all that stuff. And it's baseball, this isn't basketball, where you just sign 2 or 3 guys, and even then it doesn't always work. So like I said, you guys are in the thick of it right now. You're it feels bad, but you're only 2 out. Like I said, there's a 6 wild card for a reason. You're probably not going to be having a great season if you're in the battle for the 6th spot anyways. But the D-backs made it there last year. The Rangers made it there as the 6th seed. So you never know how this is going to happen and how this plays out. So we'll see if your Mets can hang in there with it. It'll be very interesting. You guys are definitely going to be the talk of the offseason. There's no doubt. Like, you guys will be right there with it as talk of the offseason. CP, as I kind of moved to like my other like things here at the standings, we'll go a little quicker at this part, but the Astros are playing good ball. They sweep the Rays yesterday. They get their 8th straight win. Susie, that's why I had the Halloween emoji. So I did an emoji show for each team, how I felt, and they had the pumpkin. They'll be there in October. The Mariners are in 2nd, and I feel he's confident. If you're going against the Mariners in the AL West, there's a good chance you're going to surpass them. The Astros, to me, they just know how to do it. Veteran team, right? Like, they know April and May is kind of a grind. Let's get through it, and then their professional hitters show up like they usually do. And then they always get pitchers, CP. I mean, they always get guys like Alvarez or, there's Blanco's pitching good for a while. Like, they get these guys that just show up all the time. So you get that with the Astros playing well. You have the D-backs. Padres stay hot, as we said, but they're only 2.5 out. Like, 2, that is right there. And then you got the Pirates, who were the talk of the town, the new person, the young stud on the street, and then 10 straight losses, back in last place. We have Mike McKinley on, who does some broadcasting last year. He does some broadcasting with the Pirates, played for the Pirates. He came on last year, and he's like, the big goal is, can they get to 500? So it looked like that was going to happen, and now they're under. They have that big fall. They're now like 5 games under 500, and then and we'll get into the Yanks and those here to finish it up. But what do you kind of make of those little thoughts? Any one of those stand out to you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too long. I mean, until the Astros kind of made their way back into the picture of things. I know they got off to a perpetual slow start. It doesn't matter. Whatever conversation you have around the Astros, it doesn't matter what kind of roster they field. I know they lost a couple of guys in their bullpen, and Stanek, right, who was actually great for them at one point, and also who was the guy that went to the Neris to the Cubs.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter. Like you said, they always find a way, which is why a lot of people are always praising the Tampa Bay Rays for having that perpetual like knack for talent and like random guys coming up and producing.
Yeah.
But like I look at the Astros, I'm like, that is the epitome of guys that are just coming out and just kind of like making a name for themselves, and they're able to recuperate as an organization any potential losses in free agency, and they're kind of able to maneuver it that way. Now, my Mets just got smacked by the Seattle Mariners, so that team is definitely on the up and up as well. But it seems like the Astros,
but then the Mariners get swept by the Tigers.
And then follow up and get swept by the Tigers. I'm saying, so like the Seattle Mariners, as good as they've been, especially like over the years, like they just can't find that way, right? They're a roller coaster, and they can't find that consistency to take over the Astros in that division. Yep. So 100% very impressed by the Astros, like ability to sustain themselves no matter what's happened in their organization from within, right? And then Padres, like I said, like I'm not worried about the Padres. I know the Dodgers also have a lot of flaws on their team. And they've kind of like, they haven't been as dominant of a Dodgers team as we would have like thought of them to be, especially with the offseason that they had. A couple positional moves, right? Mookie Betts, the trial in the infield, etc. But like, to be honest with you, we've seen this picture play out before with the Padres and Dodgers, and there's one team that always comes out on top at the end of that rivalry, and it's always the Dodgers. So until further notice, I'm going to give that edge to the Los Angeles Dodgers. But yeah, 100%.
But they got some injuries, though. I got to say real quick, they have some injuries, that pitching staff, and the Padres, could we make a case right now that the Padres and D-backs have better starting rotations, right? Like their pitching might be better than both those teams, with giving that Glasnow is the only one that's really healthy right now. And then they lose River Ryan the other day. Like, what a great name, but they lose him as well to another injury. That would be my only thing there. As great as Ohtani is, like if they don't have the arms and the Padres are throwing cease at you, and they got you know what I mean? They're going to be. There might be a world where they sneak by him. I don't know. I think that to me is the most intriguing part of these next 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with you. The Padres, I would say I would probably agree with you. The Padres and the Diamondbacks right now on paper, right, who's healthy, probably having a better staff than the LA Dodgers, 100%. But like something to me, just for the feel for the game and feel for that rivalry and what's happened, it's just like, you know, the Padres fans are going to go to Twitter like they usually do. They're going to take to Twitter. They're going to put out a Padres rap, a theme song for their team. Not to bring that back up. I'm sorry, Padres fans. It had nothing to do with that. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of like the feel of what I have for the NL West. But like I said, at the NL West, like I really do think the Diamondbacks are going to try to make another Cinderella run like they did last year. And they got stronger at the deadline. I mean, just the moves in general that they had in this offseason and deadline, I've been very impressed with the Diamondbacks. And I really think that they're going to be giving any team that they match up with in the playoffs a fit. Like, I really do. I'm scared of the Diamondbacks as a Mets fan.
They have that second half button down now. They know when they're kind of getting that down a little bit. All right, real quick here, Yanks or O's? Who if you had to call it right now, who do you think wins that division? Take away your top three here. Take away one of the top three because they're irrelevant to you. But if you had to go, who do you think pulls this out?
I'm not convinced of the Yankees. Like my bias aside, non-biasly, I'm not convinced of the Yankees. I do think the O's have the slight edge. It doesn't really matter who makes it out of that division, right? To me, it's going to be a close race until the end. I'll give the O's the edge, even though they also have their flaws, right? They're a
Yeah,
young team.
absolutely.
They're a little bit more inexperienced. They're the more exciting team, to be honest with you. I know the Yankees have Soto and Judge, and unfortunately, Jazz Chisholm has dealing with that UCL injury, and I don't really know what the concrete answer is to that, right? I don't know what he got
Yeah, it's
diagnosed with
tough.
and what the consensus is, but it just seems like the O's are a little bit more exciting, and I'd give them the edge, but I don't really think it matters when it comes to the AL East who makes out of the division versus who doesn't. I think the O's will make a stronger playoff push and a playoff run than the New York Yankees. The Yankees, and I'm using the barometer of like the last couple of years and what I've
I
judged
get
out of
you.
these franchises. What was that?
No, I get you. I get you. Makes sense.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like the Yankees, like they'll always have a great regular season record. They'll always make some noise. They might win a playoff series. But when it comes to finally making that push, and I know we're talking about Yankees versus O's, right? And that's the overall question. But when you take a look at like the rivalry of the Yankees and even the Astros, right, over the past
Oh,
couple of years, it's like the Yankees have not been able to cross that threshold. And until they do, I'm sorry. I know I'm a Mets fan. I get it, right? I shouldn't be speaking on this conversation, but I'm going to because you asked me. They're
totally
not
right.
they're not relevant in that conversation compared to the other AL teams until they cross that threshold. Just my personal opinion.
Well, it's only right. You're the guest. I asked you the question. You got to answer it, right? That's how it goes there. See,
You're gonna get me in trouble there. You're gonna get me in trouble with these Yankees fans
there
over
won't
here.
there won't be a short of it. I promise. No shorts. We won't do that. Yeah, Yanks O's. We'll see. That will be obviously some good talk along the way here. All right, it's time for my Diamond Notes segment here. Here's my little short video to get it started. Hey, here's my Diamond Notes. Shout out to Peter Gammons, old school here, baseball tonight. All right, Juan Soto has, speaking of your Yanks, homers and four or five at bats. Alvarez breaks the scoreboard in Tampa Bay on to start the game, just destroys it. Man, hit the right button there. Austin Adams trolls your Mets and then gets trolled back on the door when he hits the home run. A little fun from the week as well. Hunter Green throws up on the mound. More guys throwing up, I feel, this year than ever on the field, it feels. More guys letting it out on the field. Disgusting. Imagine fielding a ground ball after that. He strengthens the Cy Young case. Like I said, we kind of briefly talked about him, and then I thought it was a funny note I read this morning. The Marlins won't trade Sandy Alcantara. Are you kidding me? You guys are trading him next year. You know you are. Don't tell me you're not trading him. I don't care if he's your opening day starter. You're the Marlins. You're trading everybody at some point. So any of those Diamond Notes stick out to you, CP?
Juan Soto. That's it.
How much money he getting? 700 million? Is he getting 700?
I just had this conversation with somebody else. Someone said 750. I'm like, they said 750. And I was like, you know what? I know how good he's been. I know he's been kind of in the shadows of Aaron Judge this season because he's been absolutely phenomenal. And Aaron Judge has been just as good, if not better. But it's like 750. Let's hold let's relax a little bit on that. Let's relax a little bit on that. But I mean, I'm a Mets fan. I don't say it on my podcast because it would make me sound very desperate if I did, but I'm holding out hope that he hits free agency. I'm holding out hope that Steve Cohen swoops in.
How would that change your team? My goodness, him and Lindor, that would make a difference.
Yeah. I'm monitoring what Juan Soto is doing on a day-to-day basis. That's what sticks out to me. And Austin Adams, I mean, we talked about it. Very animated. I understand listen, this might make me sound like a boomer. I'm not gonna even lie to you. Like, yeah. I love the enthusiasm and I love the energy in sports. But when you come off the mound, I get it, your former team. They cut you in spring training. I understand. I had Austin Adams videos as soon as the Mets signed him, right? To the deal that they did in Austin. I made a video to talk about Austin Adams. Can you imagine that? And then they cut him in spring training. Like, I went in the depths of Austin Adams analysis on my channel. But it's like, I get it. You're holding a grudge. It was a situation where you had to get your starting pitcher, Joe Boyle, out of a jam. You did it. Congrats. Why we got to go screaming expletives, at the New York Mets and at certain players? That's just too much. So I'm glad Francisco Lindor did what he did. I back Edwin Diaz's comments. And you know what? I guess Austin Adams gets the last laugh because the A's take the series against the Mets. It's embarrassing. You have the Oakland A's fan at Citi Field with the sell sign, and they win the series. Embarrassing, at least from my perspective.
At least you got to see Mason Miller pitch 2 innings at the end. You got to see him. Yeah, well, maybe I think the A's could trade him too. Maybe get him and Rooker. CP. There's your little hope there going into next year as well.
That package, Darren. We'll get the Brett Beatty in return.
Thank you, Budo. Get your boy Budo too. Hunter Green, is he just real thought? You think he somehow steals this, or is it Wheeler and Sale? I mean, he's right there. His numbers are there.
He's right there. Like I said, I have not been paying attention to a whole lot of Cincinnati Reds baseball.
Well, just based on stats and like I said, they're kind of right there. Sale gets the hype because I think there's a world where Hunter Green steals it. Like the Cy Young's a little different. It doesn't have to be like the best pitcher on the best team all the time. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a different award. Like if he ends up, I think they're only separated by ERA by like 20 points. Like it's not that much. And then their Ks are right there. Like ERA, like all the stats are right there. I think the only thing he does different is he does walk a few more than those guys. But I don't know. It's kind of exciting to get a new young guy here that throws hard and kind of putting it together.
If I know anything about these awards across the MLB is that the brand names usually win. So Wheeler or Sale would be the ones in my book. But like I said, the Cincinnati Reds are in great hands on both sides of the ball with Hunter Green and Ellie De La Cruz. That's 100% fact.
Doug, if you're out there, yes, fire David Bell. Yes, we want him. Yes, fire him there. Doug, if you're out there listening. All right, fire rapid round here. We'll get into my baseball bonanza questions here. If the season were to end today, who would you pick for your NL Rookie of the Year? Skeens, Imanaga, or Jackson Merrill, who's coming on late? He's been really good for the Padres. He's been clutch with some. We're talking about clutch hitting. He's the guy I went up on second base recently in the second half. If you had a thought, is it Skeens just walks away because of his girlfriend and all the? No, I'm just kidding. What ends up happening with this? Like, I feel like the 10-game losing streak maybe puts him in a world where he gets shut down, and so like I feel like then it maybe goes. I feel like Shota gets a slight advantage. He's still top 10 in ERA. What's your thoughts there?
You know, Shohei Ohtani was the top of the town, especially as the season began and into the middle part of the season. You know what? Jackson Merrill has been fantastic for the Padres as of recent. I mean, he's been all over the place with the bat and the glove. He's adjusting to a new position, a natural infielder, playing outfield now, and is making diving catches to win them ball games.
What a play that was. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me Jackson Merrill. I don't like the Padres. I despise everything about the Padres. Honestly, if I had to revise my top 5 disliked teams, the Padres are top 5, 100%. Like, no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Here's my concrete list, just for anybody listening. It's the Braves, the Phillies, the Yankees, Cardinals, Padres. Those are my top 5 most despised teams. I'm sorry.
I feel like you taught yourself into the Padres today. I like it. I feel like we just talked it up about knowing that the Padres are in there. The Fathers, as a great Kenny Maid would say, he's on the list. The Fathers made it. So you get there. I think Skeens was he was spot the walk away with it here. So all right, next baseball bonanza. Would you rather see a 3-homer game, a no-hitter, or a cycle if you attended a game? I put this the other day on Twitter. That was kind of a fascinating question. When I looked it up, I'm not going to get it completely correct here because I've kind of lost the list here, but it was like no-hitters were like 348 now because the other one. Cycles are like 377, and 3-homer games are like 398. So you talk about like within all the history of baseball, those are 3 categories that are kind of in that same area. Which one would you like to see if you went to a game?
If I went to a game where the Mets were playing, I would say a no-hitter. But if I went to a game that the Mets were not playing in, I would say probably a 3-home-run game. I like that because that's really hard to do in today's MLB. A 3-home-run game, I kind of like that. I love the offense.
Have you been able to see any of those by chance?
No, I think the closest I was when I went to a Mets versus Nationals game way back when, and Brian Schneider hit like 2 for the New York Mets, but he didn't get the third one. So
I've seen 2 out of the 3. I saw 2002 Mike Lieberthal, ex-catcher for the Phillies. He was a catcher. And I went to the only game I've ever been to at Dodger Stadium on vacation there right before summer school ended. And we went there. We got to see Mike Lieberthal go deep 3 times in a game. Sean Green actually went deep twice. So that one. And then I randomly saw Eric Burns from the A's get a cycle out here at Oracle Park back in 2002 as well. But it's always the famous triple where it's a blooper to center. The center fielder dives and it goes by him. So it's kind of a funny
always.
The crowd gives him a big reaction out there. So I got to see 2 out of the 3. It's kind of cool actually. That when I looked at those numbers, but the no hitter it does always feel a little bit different. Not the combined one. I don't want that one. I want the one where the guy pitches by himself.
Yeah, the Mets combined no-hitter doesn't count in your
No,
mind.
it doesn't count in my mind. Those don't count at all out there. Those suck. I hate those darn combined no-hitters. Still be cool to go, but it definitely wouldn't be the same. Hey, which non-baseball venue would you like to see the next MLB Classic played at? If you're just naming something randomly, is there a random spot would you like to see it play? Madison Square Garden? No, like, is there somewhere we could fit a game where you kind of that'd be kind of cool if we saw a game there? I said I kind of jokingly said Alcatraz out here in the Bay. We get one out there.
That's kind of fun. That's awesome.
I was thinking maybe the Big House in Michigan, something maybe a college football stadium. They could kind of put something into that category. Is kind of where I was. Kind of my mind was starting to lean something maybe the Longhorn Stadium, the Astros play somebody that. So because what are they doing NASCAR this year, right? Bristol. They're gonna do the Braves and Reds next year.
Oh,
Aaron, shout out NASCAR guy if he's listening. I know.
Yeah, there you go.
You got it.
The next left turn.
You'll have to think about that one. You'll think about that.
That's a great question. I don't even.
Great.
I want to say something Central Park is way too small to fit something like that. But
that would be sick.
That would be awesome.
Cutting down trees.
Yeah. I want to say something where the outfield is up on the water. If you hit a home run, it goes into the water. I'm not talking about San Francisco.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. I'm talking about the ocean, more or less.
I wonder if they could do something in Hawaii. That's what I was thinking. There's got to be some.
That's what I was thinking. Hawaii is Hawaii was where I was kind of my first thought was going.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been kind of liking some of these things they've been doing. I like MLB's. They did the Field of Dreams one was kind of cool. I mean, some were kind of corny, with some of the stuff. I get it, but I just like the idea of them mixing it up a little bit to kind of change the summer, the kind of the boring part of baseball. It's kind of a good time, but nobody's there. What the hell? Throw it out a spot where somebody might tune in or something like that. So
that is a unique question. I've never heard somebody. I've never been asked that before.
Sorry,
that really just stumped me. I have to think about that for the rest of the night now.
You'll be sure. Yeah, at 4 a.m. when you wake up accidentally, you'll have a thought that comes to your mind.
I'm just gonna wake up out of my sleep I got it. This is perfect. I gotta go to Rob Manfred now.
Yosemite, what's over there? Right there. You got it out there. Washington D.C. Capital. All right, last one here, Baseball Bonanza. Who's your one player you've always defended from your favorite team, your New York Mets, but the rest of your fan base said, get this loser out of here. We don't want this son of a gun. We hate. It could be a random player or you're this guy is going to be good. I believe in him. For me, I don't know if you'll know that, but I thought Bobby Crosby. He won Rookie of the Year as a shortstop out here. I thought this guy's going to be good. He's going to be a stud. I defended him. I'm not a jersey guy, but I did have a T-shirt giveaway shirt of him, but I did have that. So that was a lot saying for me. So I believed in Big Bobby and he let me down. So that was somebody I defended for a while. And is there a Mets guy out there randomly that you like, but you do God, he's falling. He sucks a little bit.
I want to say, especially as long as he stuck around for quite a bit too. And I actually got his autograph. Very nice guy. Juan Lagares. I want to say Juan Lagares.
All right.
That's my Mets guy. That's he wasn't crappy by any stretch of imagination. He played a Gold Glove caliber center field, always injured, and everyone's kind of all right, we're waiting for him to kind of take off, but he never did. And I was just you know what, give him an extra couple of weeks, he's gonna get into it, and it just never materialized. So I think Juan Lagares, very nice guy. Got to get his autograph, and the defense that he played was absolutely electric. So he stuck around for a long time because of his defense, and I guess that'd be my answer. Is Juan Lagares.
There's always something in baseball. There's always one guy we like more than everybody else. All right, we're here at the closing part of the show here. All right, MLB trivia for you, CP. Let's see. You've joined the show. Let's put you on the hot seat, Aaron. I know you're going to know the answer because you're good at this stuff. So we'll see if CP can get it here in a little bit. I always thought Ty Wigginton. That's a good call. That's a good call there. That's a name. See, there's these random Ben Greaves, another A's guy for me. There's guys out here where you think they're Jamal Weeks. I believed in him for a while as the A's guys. Ricky Weeks' brother there. So yeah, it's fun kind of looking back at that. All right, MLB trivia. Let's see what CP's got on the agenda tonight. All right, you get 3 hints, CP. Probably, I don't know if you've seen the game show. You can answer anytime, as many guesses as you want. I played from 1995 to 2012, playing for 5 different franchises. I am a 2-time All-Star, finishing my career with the New York Mets. It'll get a little easier as we move on here. Is there a name you want to throw out along the way here? Take some time. Think about it. No rush.
5 different franchises. Oof.
Try to make it a little tricky at the beginning.
Finishing his career in 2012.
Jeremy Giambi. No, it's not Jeremy.
With the Mets.
Slide, Jeremy, slide. What are we doing? Yeah.
Do I get any hints here? Do I get any hints? Is this
I'm going to give you another hint too. Hit number 2. I said you get 3 of them, so they'll get easier. Hit number 3 or hit number 2. I have exactly 300 career saves in my career. My best season was in 2004. When I led the NL with 47 saves. So he did it in the NL. I'll even give you a better hint. He did it in the NL Central that year. He did it in the NL Central. He was a leader there.
K-Rod.
Good, yes, not K-Rod.
No, K-Rod's 1995. What am I doing here?
I'm gonna really test your Mets knowledge with hit number 3. This is the hit number 3. This one would give it away for me if I was back in the day. Here it is. We'll see if you can get it. I was known with the Bill Husher, Paul Wilson, as a member of Generation K, a group highly regarded by the Mets prospects in about the mid-90s, 95, 96. These 3 guys were supposed to change the franchise. One of them did turn out to get 300 saves and was a closer for your Mets and a lot of other teams along the way. In 2004, I'll give you even another clue, CP. He did it with the Cardinals in 2004. He led the NL in saves.
I feel like I should. I feel like I should get this.
I combined our teams. There's a little history as well. Your Mets did trade under my A's in 1999. They did, and I got them going. I can give you the answer. I can give it to you.
Yeah, I'm stumped. All
right, it's an old school name
here on East Coast time.
Jason Isringhausen from your Mets.
Isringhausen.
He was on the Mets.
There you go. Kieran Drummond was on it. Wow, Isringhausen. Okay,
Isringhausen is the guy. Yeah, spelling. Who knows that we just put anything down at that time? It's like the guy from Rookie of the Year, Rosenberger. It doesn't matter. Here's with it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so
I can't believe I guessed K-Rod when I saw 1995. What am I doing?
I think well, like you said, it's only 8:13 out here. You're fighting a different battle than I am at this point. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us. So here's the video. I get him up on the big board here with it. We get him on the show here. So here's our guy, Jason, is actually getting his 300th save with your New York Mets. This is the one against the Padres, your hated Padres. He ends up getting the save here. Let's see a quick little look at the video here if he gets on the board here.
Sacrifice and a fielder's choice to take the lead.
So he gets 300 there, strikes it out. He gets the guy there. So Isringhausen on the Mets. Do you remember him as all? It kind of feels like he was a figure that the Mets always thought a little bit. Has he ever thought about it all with the newer fans as a name that ever comes up? Because like my generation, it was a big deal. We got him from your team, and he ends up making a big difference for my A's, kind of to get us into the playoffs. So it's just kind of a funny name for me from the past to look back at a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't heard that name thrown out in a long time. So
that's funny. Well, CP, I got you on that one. So we'll get you out another one here with at some point with it. Hey, I'll get you out with this last thing here with it. We talked a little Yankees, a little Angels along the way. I'm going to do my MLB flashback video of the week here. So let me get that up on the screen.
The Cardinals are world champs in 2011.
There's our Cardinals little shout out there along the way to our guys there. So here's our look back video of the week. Chone Figgins up to bat against the Yankees here. A unique play you don't see in baseball every day. So let's get this up here.
On the road. Still 6 outs to go. Sean pops it up. He ran right into the
what a catch!
And what a
Did you see that?
Play by Jorge Posada. Just bare hand.
That was unbelievable.
Baseball.
Figgins backed him off. They got tangled up. Jorge Posada dropped his glove and he made a catch barehanded.
Don't see that every day in baseball.
That's badass.
He catches it there. So he got that with it. So I thought that was funny. I was like, I've never seen that play ever. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that in play. I like how Posada, the umpire, he's just like, what the hell, man? With that. So good stuff there with it. Look back video. CP, It was good. You brought an hour and 10 with me. I appreciate it. I know it was a long night for you. Thank you and you've been doing pods all day. So I really do appreciate your time. I want to make this point. I highly respect what you do. And the reason I say that is because for me, I'm about people that just show work ethic. And I don't even know you outside of this part of it. And you know that. But like from that standpoint, I respect you and I appreciate you. And in some ways, you keep me motivated, want me to keep my stuff up too. So just from that standpoint, I appreciate you taking the time. But I also respect how good you are at this. Good you are at this as well.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you, Darren. Thank you so much. It's been a long day for me. Absolutely. I try to. I've been on pods all day long, live streams, podcast episodes. I dropped the Lindor podcast episode on my channel today as well. I was up early or late last night just doing that. So I appreciate you, Darren. This is always a great time. You guys are doing a tremendous thing here with all the different topics and all the different segments. That's something that I definitely respect as well. Sometimes outside of my New York Mets, like I failed to keep up with the rest of the game and what's going on around the league, right? With the AL, etc. Because I'm so focused on the NL wild card and all that has to bring with it in relation to the New York Mets. But this is a great show. I'm glad I can also have you on my post game and get that kind of exposure to the seventh inning stretch, variety, and everything that you guys are doing at Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports. Like I had, what was it? We had discussed an episode months ago. Like I don't even know if it was during the off season, but that was the first time that we had an episode together. We were talking about like the Knicks. We were talking about everything in that episode. And just like your guys' general sports knowledge is something that I can also say that I would like to get my, I guess, expertise up on, right? Because I'm focused on my teams and my teams only, but you guys do it all. You guys cover it all. And that's even harder to do than what I'm doing right now. So big ups to you guys. Definitely appreciate you having me on the channel. It means a lot. And hopefully, right, we're looking back on this conversation. I'm looking a little foolish and saying that the New York Mets, right, are kind of looking up in the standings, and we're talking about a New York Mets playoff team. But I appreciate everybody in chat. Thank you so much, St. Louis Sports Network, Bergman Baseball, Aaron, Pure Jones Sports, everybody. I love the chat. I love the interaction. And Darren, I appreciate you. Great host. Great show as always.
Be sure CP Sports Network. You know the like and subscribe will be down at the link as well here on the show when I put it out. So be sure to check him out. Let's get them to 900 subs. Always check. He's always on before the games, after the game. Like you said, he's up late, so we're going to let him go here. CP, appreciate your time, my man. So for Josh Edwards, who's not here, we'll see you next week. Josh Edwards, CP again. Thanks for taking the time. I'm Darren Breyer. We'll see you guys all next week. Peace.